The model race used to be easy to summarize. A company would ship a bigger number, everyone would ask whether it beat the old benchmark champion, and then we would all argue about whether the demos were real. But since GPT 5.5, the map has gotten stranger. The important news is not just the next big model, it is the split into specialized modes, deeper reasoning, cheaper high-volume models, live audio, cyber variants, coding agents, and agent platforms that sit around the models like operating systems. Today on the Synthetic Lens, the Post-GPT 5.5 model map.
And the headline is that Google may be the clearest example of this new shape. Not because there is a verified standalone model called Gemini 3.1 Ultra. I want to be careful there. We do not have that as a confirmed model name. What we do have is the Gemini 3.1 stack, Gemini 3.1 Pro, Gemini 3.1 Flash-Lite, Gemini 3.1 Flash Live Preview, and Gemini 3.1 DeepThink available to Google AI Ultra subscribers.
That distinction matters. Ultra appears to be the access tier. DeepThink is the premium reasoning mode. Gemini 3.1 Pro is the general high-capability model. Flash-Lite is the cost and latency play. Flash Live is the real-time audio lane. So the story is not, quote, Google launched Gemini 3.1 Ultra. The story is that Google is carving one model family into lanes. Think harder, respond cheaper, talk live, or work broadly across multimodal contexts.
The DeepMind page describes Gemini 3.1 DeepThink as best for modern challenges across science, research, and engineering. It calls it a significant upgrade to Gemini 3.1's specialized reasoning mode, meant for real-world problems that require rigor, creativity, and intelligence. That is not subtle positioning. Google is saying, if you need the model to behave more like a research partner or engineering partner, this is the expensive mode.
And Gemini 3.1 Pro is the other half of that pitch. Vertex documentation frames it around complex tasks, multimodal understanding, and huge context. Text, audio, images, video, PDFs, even entire code repositories with a 1 million token context window. That is the old Gemini promise, but sharper, not just long context as a stunt, long context as a workspace.
Then Flash-Lite is almost the opposite move. It is the reminder that frontier AI is not only about the most expensive answer. Google describes Gemini 3.1 Flash-Lite as cost-efficient, low latency, high volume, and a quality jump over older Flash-Lite models. That matters because a lot of real AI deployment is not one heroic prompt. It is millions of boring calls. Classify this, summarize that, route this ticket, extract these facts, answer this customer, check this form.
And then there is Gemini 3.1 Flash Live Preview, an audio-to-audio model for real-time dialogue and voice-first applications. That one is especially interesting for this show because it points at where audio AI is going. Less text-to-speech stitched onto chat, more native live conversation. If the last era was chat boxes, the next one is probably voice loops, agents, and tools.
OpenAI is moving in that same direction. The important OpenAI update here is not just GPT 5.5 itself, but the model family packaging around it. OpenAI's recent voice update includes new real-time voice models in the API, including GPT Real-Time 2, GPT Real-Time Translate, and GPT Real-Time Whisper pricing. Translation, transcription, and live speech are becoming first-class model surfaces.
Which means voice is no longer just an output format. It is becoming a product category. A model can listen, translate, answer, interrupt, recover, and hold a real-time loop. That changes call centers, accessibility tools, tutoring, games, cars, smart glasses, and frankly, podcasts like this one. It also changes expectations. Once users get used to real-time voice, a chatbot that waits, thinks, and dumps text into a synthetic voice will feel old.
OpenAI also has GPT 5.5-Cyber and Trusted Access for cyber work. That is a different kind of specialization, not cheaper or faster, but more permissioned, more role-specific, more wrapped in controls. The interesting question is whether frontier models become a family of regulated instruments: general chat for everyone, deep reasoning for paid tiers, cyber models for trusted users, coding agents with audit trails, voice models with separate pricing. Not one model, but a model economy.
Coding is where that becomes most visible. OpenAI has Codex. Anthropic has Claude Code and higher usage limits tied to compute expansion. Google is pushing anti-gravity alongside Gemini 3. Qwen is building Qwen Code around Qwen 3 Coder. The pattern is clear. Labs are not content to sell raw intelligence anymore. They want to own the workflow around the intelligence.
Qwen Code is worth watching for that reason. It is not just, here is a model. It is an open-source AI coding tool powered by Qwen 3 Coder, with integrations, commands, IDE support, and agentic workflow language. That makes Qwen part of the same conversation as Codex, Claude Code, and Gemini Anti-Gravity. The coding agent layer is becoming the battlefield where model capability becomes daily developer behavior.
XAI is on the watch list too. Its docs point to Grok 4.3 reasoning and a Grok 4.20 multi-agent research model name. I would not make that the headline yet because docs are not the same as a clear launch narrative, but it fits the same pattern: reasoning knobs, multi-agent modes, specialized endpoints.
So if we zoom out, the Post-GPT-5.5 landscape has 5 lanes. Lane 1, premium reasoning. Gemini DeepThink. OpenAI reasoning modes. Claude's more deliberate agentic behavior. This is where the labs sell depth.
Lane 2, cheap scale. Flash-Lite, mini models, fast models, anything built for high-volume deployment. This is where the labs sell economics.
Lane 3, live multimodal interfaces. Real-time voice, audio-to-audio, image and video understanding, models that operate in a loop instead of a turn.
Lane 4, domain-restricted power. Cyber models, enterprise controls, trusted access, compliance APIs, auditability. This is where the labs try to make dangerous capability commercially usable.
Lane 5, agent workspaces. Codex, Claude Code, anti-gravity, Qwen Code, and the growing ecosystem of tools that turn model calls into projects.
The version number still matters. GPT 5.5 mattered. Gemini 3.1 matters. Claude Opus upgrades matter. But the real story is that the frontier is fragmenting into product shapes. The model is becoming less like a single engine and more like a garage full of vehicles. A race car for reasoning, a delivery van for cheap scale, a headset for voice, a locked lab for cyber, a construction crew for code.
And that makes model news harder to track. A submodel like Flash-Lite can matter because it changes economics. A mode like DeepThink can matter because it changes what paid users can attempt. A voice model can matter because it changes the interface. A coding agent can matter because it changes the workflow. If we only watch for giant version numbers, we will miss most of the actual product shift.
That is the key takeaway. The AI labs are not just training smarter models. They are packaging intelligence into lanes, tiers, and jobs. And once intelligence is packaged that way, the competition changes. It is not only who has the best benchmark, it is who has the right model, at the right price, in the right workflow, with the right permissions, when the user needs it.
So no, I would not call this the Gemini 3.1 Ultra episode. I would call it the Model Map episode. Since GPT 5.5, the race has become less about a single crown and more about a stack: reasoning, real-time voice, cheap inference, cyber trust, and coding agents. And that may be the more important story. The frontier is not slowing down. It is specializing. That's The Synthetic Lens. I'm David Carver. Thanks for listening.